So, I have some thoughts about the process that I think that might be a good time for our retrospective. If you guys want to get started with that. First of all, I'll wait for you, Tori. I guess I can actually just talk while you're getting
You can talk, because I always forget to get that.
Okay. So, I thought last episode was all right. One thing that I would like to see, and we've talked about this, but I want to get a little bit more process behind how we process the show after we record it. So obviously, well, anyone who's ever done a podcast before knows there's editing, and there is our graphics, and there's this website and show notes and a million things to do. So I think we could all just get more efficient with our post-show processing of everything, so that we can get the show out at a reasonable time, especially because we record every 2 weeks. I don't want to lose viewers. The longer we go between shows, the more likely that people will lose interest. So, yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to remember what we had last
Nobody
week.
has anything to say about that.
Oh, yeah. So the other a part of that would just be what I hate when it does this. Part of it would just be making sure we do the YouTube timestamps. I think that's cool. There's that kind of stuff. We should just get a list together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not even talking about adding new things necessarily, just being more efficient with how we get things out. It all starts with everyone sending you our audio, Tori, which that's first step, and then it's you editing, and then it's you uploading, and then it's show notes, and then it's graphics, and it's just there's a lot of things going on, and we all three do a shared amount of it, but just trying to get more in sync so that we're not getting blocked or anything. Pope show notes. Now everyone's gonna know what our jobs are.
I'll give it code words. The Raven.
The Raven.
The Raven.
That way we don't even know what we're supposed to do.
And Pope is
everyone now knows that John is the one who made our awesome graphics.
Sauron.
It was definitely not me.
I'm Sauron.
Yeah. No, it's just your task. These are just code words for the task.
Oh, that's awesome.
Those don't actually. They don't relate to the task either. We just have to know.
Right.
One good first thing you thought of.
Yes, very much so.
One good thing, speaking of our graphics, I really like our graphics, and I love the gradients with the different colors. I think this actually does it. It's sort of in line with what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. But I like how they're different, but they feel cohesive and part of the same, obviously, show, which is to me cool. We could have just done the same graphic with different, text in each.
That's what
episode.
I would have done, because
that's what I probably would have done that too. But I think it's really cool.
Yep.
John, what you did, where each one feels different. You look at the grid of all the shows, it just looks really cool. Or on Instagram, but it's also clear that they're all sort of part of the same family, which is really cool.
Oh, thanks.
Now that we have 3 episodes,
I wouldn't want them to be the same
every time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I wanted them to be consistent while, like you said, looking different. Just because, especially if we're gonna post on Instagram or on YouTube, once you start having a few different ones, they would all look the same.
Now we could start doing YouTube style thumbnails where we all make sure that we do our PogChamp faces.
That's right.
Or whatever.
Our reactions.
And then we cut our faces out and put that on there. I think we could do that.
Or the thinking.
We could look into that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We should do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I was talking to John. I don't know if I told you, Tori. Maybe I did. Maybe it was in our Discord. We were talking about it. But right now I have the episode number written out as the word form, not the numerical form. So once it gets too long, we get too many podcasts. I already have ideas for how to change it.
Yeah, that will
maybe
be
change it up every 5 or 10 episodes, so you can kind of either tell or just so it's a little bit different. Maybe we've switched back to another style.
Could do Roman numerals if you want.
That's true.
You could do
could.
You could do just binary for a little bit here while we're on the low numbers.
I was just imagining spelling out like
they're on episode 10.
That could be like what Apple does or Xbox. Sorry, Xbox. It doesn't really mean anything.
No.
You just put random numbers.
Series 498.
Yeah,
that's right.
I have a correction as well, and I've been supposed to saying this since the first episode, or I've been supposed to say this. Britt is really annoyed that I said we just had black paint, and that's what we used because we had it. She's very offended that that's the case because she said, no, I bought that paint on purpose. So she wanted to know that she is an intentional interior designer and not just use whatever paint we happen to have. So
I do feel like I need to now paint one of my walls black or dark blue because
I think so.
I feel very much out of place in this
dark curtains,
little
maybe?
grid of dark curtains. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's feeling pretty bland back there. Mine, not you guys.
Yeah, mine. Colleen, my wife, laughed because I had like 10 or 15 different types of black to choose from for my wall color back there.
Yep,
it's such a designer thing to do.
I know it is. I wanted a very much. It's actually a dark gray. You can see kind of some of the black frames better against it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's nice. I like that.
It's sort of a bluish gray, dark gray. It's called the Little Black Dress. Is the paint color. Yeah.
What brand?
Bear.
Okay.
Usually I do.
We got to get our sponsorship call out. So
that's right. Good. That's right. Yeah, it worked out well. It's actually a really good paint. It went on only one coat. That's all I had to do.
Well, if you buy the nice Bear in Sherwin-Williams, it's really nice not to have to do more than one coat.
Oh, and you were talking about that chair earlier. I don't know if we were even recording that, but that chair is actually from an old church in Boston.
Oh,
my brother-in-law was a pastor there, and I was out like in the back where they had their meetings and stuff, not on the service day or whatever, but they had a bunch of these chairs in their conference room, and I was like, "These are awesome chairs." And he's like, "Oh, really? We're gonna throw them all away?"
What?
I was like, "No, I'll take one." And so he gave me one, and I looked it up. It's from like the 60s or 70s.
Wow!
I can see how I wouldn't want a whole room full of those.
Yeah,
I guess, but still, like, super cool.
I know it's awesome. I love it. Cool. So, yeah.
So, have you guys seen Medium's new logo?
Medium.
I have.
Medium, the blogging platform.
I have now.
What do you think about that? 3 minutes. If you for those who are for those who are watching, first of all, there it is. Yeah, it's kind of hard to. It was on the right side in that previous screen. Mm-hmm. It's basically like 3 dots, like an ellipsis, with some perspective. It looks like where the first dot on the left, all the way on the left, is a full circle. It looks like the second dot is squished, and then the third dot is squished even more.
It has a little animation that they like to use where it kind of goes from an ellipse into that kind of rounded. It's almost like it's turning, like the ellipse like they're spinning in a circle. At first when I saw it, I really didn't like it because it made no sense to me. And even the new typeface, there's something about the high X height that I didn't like initially.
It is really tall.
But the more I looked at it, it does have a nice. I like the kerning on it. I like the closeness of it. and it is very similar to the last one. Just the X height is definitely different. And the ellipses, I read their description of it, and it makes sense. I think it's pretty interesting. It's a very neat way to solve that issue of a logo or an icon for them, because they didn't have them before. For those listening, they never had an actual icon to go with their word mark. So I think that's an interesting way to do it, rather than having something like a pen or, your basic writing
Yeah.
or book or something. It's an
An
interesting way to do it.
Ink in a quill. Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't just do the 3 dots, which I'm assuming they thought this as well when they're thinking of ellipses. But if you have the 3 dots now, especially on a website, that's generally a menu that you're going to be pressing.
Yeah, that would be interesting if they had that up in the corner. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think actually I kind of like it. I like it with the word medium. I don't necessarily like it by itself. Like if you start scrolling down on a page at the top, or maybe it's at the top of the page actually.
It's on an article.
If you're on an article.
Yeah.
I don't really like it by itself over to the right.
It doesn't
think it still
look like
needs the word medium, at least at first. Maybe if they start getting some brand recognition.
Yeah.
But right now, I think I would probably put the word medium with it, but that's just me.
I agree with that. I liked it less when I first saw it. I like it more than I did at first now, but I still have, if I'm being critical, which we are here, I like the story behind it. I feel like it needs to be described for you to like enjoy it, and I don't think that's the best thing ever, because I had no idea it was an ellipsis. I thought it was just like weirdly squished circles. I agree that it looks better with the word, and over like in this example, it gets lost in my opinion. Like it's very much. It very much doesn't have like enough character or something to sort of pop out and be something that's recognizable. Now, again, maybe it just needs time and brand recognition that comes along with that. But it just, maybe because it's so generic, really, like it's just circles and they get squished. I don't know. But I do like it more than I did when I first saw it. I definitely think it looks better, like you said, John, with the word medium next to it. Have to give it some more time, I think, before I can really make up my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a 0% chance I would have guessed that that's ellipsis.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I didn't either.
That's fine. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the worst thing. But in this case, that doesn't feel like a very strong tie, which I think is very interesting for them to pick something and then have so much discussion about that when it's like they're too big to be an ellipsis. Like that's not what an ellipsis looks like. And that's fine again, but I do like some of the other things they're doing with their brand. I think it's a like this pretty bold. They've always kind of had that image header look and that kind of thing, and so this is kind of an interesting like take on that, where they have the really strong colors, and then in the articles they didn't change the articles too much, but they did, their typography looks a little bit different. So I don't know. I think some of the other changes they did, I like some of these
illustration
brandy stuff they're doing. Like this is pretty
cool.
Pretty unique from what I've seen. I could be wrong. This could be somewhat used elsewhere, but I think it kind of has a like a retro feel almost to it because of the like hard black lines.
It definitely
you've got the black and white contrast. But I do think these are kind of cool. They're not really helpful on the web that much, but they're really cool from a overall brand standpoint.
Yeah, I like their illustration style. For those listening, it's the way they do their illustration style. It's all made of words. So for example, on what we're looking at, there's a picture of an illustration of the Earth, and everything, all the water technically would be filled in with words, and the land masses are just the color background.
Negative space, yeah.
Yeah, the negative space. That was interesting how they did it. What's kind of funny, I remember in college actually having a project in typography class where we had to make our own, what was it? We had to do our face.
Oh.
Out of type, out of words. And so it looks very similar to it's very much like this. So people did it different ways. I actually did mine very similar to this one because I thought I just like doing it with a lot of words. Some people would use parts of letters to, differentiate the facial features. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a unique way of doing it, and it fits their brand since, it's all about the articles that's going out. So I think it fits very well. And yeah, I like how they do it with the photography as well. So yeah, I like it.
Cool. Kind of along the same lines, but not really logo as much as iconography. I wanted to see what you guys thought about Google's most recent update to their application's iconography. So, for example, Google Photos, Gmail, Google Drive, Maps, they're all Google Home. They all have this new language that is interesting. I think like there are things I like about it, and then there are things that I'm not so keen on. And I wanted to get your thoughts and see what you guys thought.
I'd like to get all of my negativity out of the way at the beginning and say this is one of my least favorite icon family, brand family designs that I've ever seen. It's not to say I don't think it could be successful in their overall branding scheme and stuff. I really dislike, and I think we'll talk about this, how hard they are to differentiate. They just kind of blend together because if you haven't seen them, they look all kind of like the old Google Drive icon did, which was a 3-color thing that had the kind of like folded look to it, but they did that on all of them, and they are all vaguely similar to the previous shape, but not really. So even the Google one, which that Gmail icon has been with me since like high school, whenever Gmail came out, like, and I've always like, that is very recognizable to me. And this M now just looks like Mario, Nintendo's Mario M. Like that's what it looks like, because it's got the red in it, and it's like got the curved corners. I don't know. That's just what I get out of it.
I find it funny that like the shapes, well, it's not consistent, but in some cases, like when the blue overlaps the green overlaps the yellow, like they look somewhat translucent, and you're seeing sort of the one color on top of the other in the little triangular part that where they're folded over top of each other, except in each one there's this like one corner that's just red, like yellow and blue make red, and it's very funny to me. Obviously I know that that's not the case, and they're not trying to say that that's the case. It's more of like a unique aspect from a branding standpoint, I assume, but I just it made me laugh because it's like, oh, blue on top of green on top of yellow on top of blue makes red. What? Thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I something you mentioned, Tori, that is probably my biggest complaint with these is that it's very difficult to tell them apart from each other. For example, I use my bookmarks bar, and I will save items to it and take away the word. It's just a bunch of icons of my like top used or visited sites. And I usually have a Gmail and a Google Calendar next to each other. And they, especially at that small size, it's like very difficult to to tell them apart. And of course, they're different shapes, and I can figure it out. It's not that hard. But when considering, the fact that I'm not trying to think, and I don't want to have to think about clicking where I'm clicking, just to open up a calendar or email, it does make it a little bit more difficult for me. And that brought up actually this Twitter thread that I found, and then some corresponding articles that talk all about unity versus uniformity, or another way to put it is coherence versus consistency, which was actually sort of I think in principle, this is something that I like knew and would in practice, use, but also at the same time, like I am guilty a lot of talking about like, oh, we need consistency, design. We build a design system so that we have consistency across the board and that sort of thing. And I think it's what I like about this whole topic and the article about cohesion versus consistency, or uniformity versus unity, is like breaking down what we mean when we talk about consistency and making sure that we're being clear, because you can go too far. And I think that is what is happening with these Google icons, is it was taken a step too far. And you got away from like a nice unified family. Like you can kind of see with the Apple icons, they're all very different, but they all feel like they're part of the same family. They are cohesive. They have unity, but they're not uniform like the Google icons on the right there. We're looking at a comparison for those who are listening of some Apple icons from iOS, like App Store, Files, Home, Maps, Photos, Mail, etc. And then the Google icons that we're talking about that look significantly more alike and make it significantly more difficult to quickly find the one that you're looking for, and therefore adds to your overall cognitive load, because you actually have to take a second to think about and be more precise about what you're tapping on because of that.
Yeah. So this is very interesting, because I have personally thought about this type of stuff so much with what I do and with branding I've done in the past. First, about this image that we're showing, I would say on the left, that is not unity. I would disagree with that, because they don't look like part of a set in the first place, but that's we're not going to talk about that right now. But to me, that's not a unified group. I wouldn't say that that's unity, because I would not be able to tell that they're part of the same grouping, unless it's.
I think it might. Sure. Yeah, I think we should just like. It might be a matter of perspective too. Like you coming from more of the marketing side. Like I think you're right. Like if you on a marketing site threw all these out there, like they wouldn't probably fit the bill as far as like what needs to be accomplished from a branding standpoint. But I do think they're unified from more of a product standpoint, where like they're different apps, they have different feels, but they use a lot of the same like visual like elements, or not elements, but like the same techniques to kind of get these different
I buy that.
Types of icons, and therefore they're unified. But maybe unity is not even the right word for this. Maybe cohesive is a better word for what we're seeing there, and maybe somebody was just trying to be alliterative and use unity and uniformity. But I see what you're saying for sure.
I would probably have put the previous icon set that Google had maybe more for a unity side, but at least when I'm thinking like it, because it has slightly they visually look slightly more alike.
I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Either way, but to talk about the actual Google icons, so I don't mind I actually like the mail icon. I like that one, but the rest of them, I don't agree that they should have done that. Like the way they did it is they tried to force themselves to make the lines so thick. They probably liked the M and they liked the Google Drive icon, and they wanted everything to be just like that. But it doesn't work well at all. Can you go back to the other image of just the icons? So they took it, like y'all said, I think they took it one step too far, where they tried to force themselves into using the different colors, all the different colors,
Right.
every time.
Hence
So
the red.
Yeah, hence the red. I don't know why they use the red in the. Is that Google Meet? Is that the camera icon?
Yes.
The video camera?
Yeah.
So right next to it is the paper, which a general icon for a paper, a lot of times you have one of the tabs, corners at the top folded down. So it makes sense doing it with the paper one where they have it cornered down. But why do they have it with the camera icon? They have a tab, like a corner folded over.
Or Drive,
it's almost
right.
And Drive.
I see what you mean.
At least, yeah.
The
but
one
Drive
corner
at
is
least
folded over. Yeah.
Yeah, only one corner is folded over. So it's like they were forcing the red in there. And then making the line so thick, the camera doesn't hardly look like a camera because it's just like squished. And you almost don't even see that that's a lens coming out of the end. I think they just took it one step too far. They could have done a lot. They could have taken what they had before and maybe adjusted it some to make them more alike. But this is almost like what I was talking about with the Apple icons in the previous episode. I like that they were going towards this. I like going towards this where they have a very unique style to them. But I think they went too far and they constricted themselves too much with their style. Maybe if they explored some different things.
Yeah.
My guess is maybe they're trying to keep it with just the one brand. Like they really wanted the Google Drive brand icon to be the main one.
They're trying to sell this as a suite. Like I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just odd that they did it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even the line strokes for the calendar are different.
Well, okay, so that's my biggest issue with all of this, other than the fact that I think they could have done something else overall, is some of these are consistent, but the Gmail is actually less. This is a lot less line stroke. These are kind of similar. But then if you look at Google Home, which for some reason needs to be the same icon, I don't know why. Like, it has a really light one, and then Google Maps doesn't have the same style at all. They just kept the because these already existed. They've been pushing towards that, but I actually don't mind the Google Photos and the Google Maps icons because it's an icon with a treatment as opposed to what I feel like is a forced treatment of a glyph that already existed. So
now I do believe, like you said, they're selling these that we're looking at as part of a suite, and that's why they look so different than the others, I believe, because these are part of whatever, I don't know what they're calling it. They gave it a new name, the apps, Google Apps or whatever for business. Now it has a nice name, and I think these are like the flagship apps that come with that. And so that's why they look slightly different, although similar to things like Home or Photos or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. It is pretty inconsistent. For as consistent as it is, it's pretty inconsistent. John, something you said, I want to just mention this in one of the articles that I mentioned called Designed for Coherence, Not Consistency, and I'll post this in the show notes. But you talked about how they like sort of, I forget exactly the words you used, but you basically said they like sort of boxed themselves in, like trying to be consistent. They sort of were stuck and they sort of had to go with that, even if it didn't work out super well. And this quote from the article is talking about how trying to be consistent is very rigid. And so he says, if we aim for consistency above efficiency, we simply are being a monolithic structure with no capacity to respond to the natural product fluctuations. Mm-hmm. So I think in this case, he's talking more about like product design, but I think it makes complete sense. Like if your goal is consistency, you are keeping yourself from being able to change when change is necessary, or innovate when innovation is necessary, and you end up boxing yourselves in, and end up with maybe a decent icon set or logo or whatever, but you lose out on a lot of things because you've set up such a rigid structure around it.
Yeah,
So it's about finding that balance too. Like you have to have, especially in any sort of design, you have to have that structure. You have to have those limitations, and you're going to. It's just a matter of finding that balance so that you are, coherent or unified, but not overly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really excited when I saw that we could talk about this, or we were going to talk about this, because of all the different situations that have happened with me personally on different brands, specifically the Frontline brand. Because when you have a company that, like ours, that is acquiring other products, other companies to bring in their product into your suite, we had this whole type of thing come up because we many years ago, we wanted to have all the brand names of each product. That was going to be what we went forward with. So people would know about the product brands themselves rather than the main company brand. So Frontline was the main company, and we had Aesop and Veritime and these other branded named products. And so at one point, I had designed an entire set of logos for each individual one that all matched in a similar style. They had a unique icon, but they all had the same similar typeface. They all looked like they were part of a system. They had different colors associated with them, similar to what Atlassian does. But then our company decided to rebrand, and we had some new leadership come in, and things were just totally flip-flopped, and that never even came. All of the work we did never even came about. And it worked out in the end, but at the time it was really hard as a design team. And for me personally, because I had done a ton of work on it.
Yeah.
And I still like what I did, and our team did. But working with a brand with so many sub-brands and so many things like this that are going out to other companies that like a platform or group of products that they're trying to sell, it's very difficult. And there's so many layers of bureaucracy that you have to go, that word that I can't say right now.
Bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy.
Yes,
That's a candidate for the episode title.
Oh man. Anyways,
if only we were back in the days of the bureaucracy.
I'm sorry, John.
It's all good. I'm used to it. So, anyways, one thing to go further from this, when we rebranded, one thing that I am very grateful for is me and our team were given the time to explore different styles of iconography and the way we did the different brand names. So the decision was to go to descriptive names of the products. Sometimes that definitely very descriptive names. Our team was not. Anyways, very descriptive names of the products, but to talk about the iconography and the brand itself, the visual brand, because we were able to have a long time to explore what we wanted the brand to be like and come up with different rules around what things could be and how you could change. We also left in ways that you could break those rules or adjust them in the future.
Yeah.
And just trying a ton of different styles so that knowing in the future when we have all these other icons and we need to do different things, we were able to do that and it still matches the style and works. Anyways, I would say that's super valuable for anyone who is doing a rebrand for companies like this or doing a branding, is to leave yourself some space to change things in the future. You still want to be consistent with your brand because that's obviously super important, especially with new brands or brands that aren't as well known. You need to really be consistent in a lot of what you're doing so that you get that visual consistency that people see and recognize your brand. But yeah, you have to leave in some room to adjust or you're just going to get stale. Especially as a designer, you're going to get very stale and not happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's really important. I think that's what this article talks about, which we will link to, as John said. Like,
Cool. Yeah, I haven't even seen that yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's just the concept on the design system side, which is what the world I work in a lot more, is like it's very easy for me to get frustrated because we have a bunch of apps and their nav is all slightly different, and the way that it's presented is a little bit different when visually there's differences between these things. And really what that consistency doesn't actually matter to the end user in a lot of cases. It matters to designers a lot, and it matters in the sense that it would be better if it were consistent. But what really matters is, do they understand the information architecture of that app? And usually the answer is that could be improved too, especially with big applications that aren't just a simple thing like Instagram, which now is not simple, and its IA is actually very confusing to me as well. But those are the kind of things that really matter to the end users. Can they navigate the app quickly? It doesn't matter if the UI is exactly the same, though that always is really bothersome and can be a problem. But there's so many other things that like this says, coherence of it. And part of that coherence is, do they understand where things are connected when you're talking about product application side?
Yeah, in this article, he defines coherence as, or says coherence is aiming for clarity versus just system uniformity of the elements in the system, and I think that makes a ton of sense. Something he says early on too, which kind of like blew my mind as a UX designer who supposedly, is supposed to be thinking about and empathetic toward the user at all times, but also talks about consistency a lot. He basically says that like consistency means you're ignoring the users and focusing on administrative tasks, like trying to make sure that everything is consistent enough. And that means you're not necessarily trying to solve the problem for what it is and in the best way that you can for the user in that specific scenario. You're more worried about, is it consistent? Does it fit with our existing patterns and styles? Now, obviously, you need to have some cohesion, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to have some of that. You can't go way on the other side of the spectrum, because that also then has usability issues. But like that totally blew my mind, and I was like, yes, that's so true. Like if you focus too far on the system and the consistency of the system, you forget about like trying to actually solve the real problems, like you were just saying, Tori, for the users. So I love that. This is a great article. Read it.
Yeah, and I think going the far other direction is what happens sometimes as a designer when we want to do something that feels cool or interesting. And that's really tough, because it does get boring for me to put a select box drop down for everything that happens to fit that pattern. And that's consistency, but it's also coherence, because that's user expectation for a lot of things. So if I go design some weird, maybe cool, maybe even useful custom control to select users, for instance, all of a sudden it's not necessarily a coherent experience anymore, because they've got to learn something new. Now, it may be fine, but that's kind of where you start seeing the like weighing the balance there of like, are you actually providing value to users, which is interesting to think about.
Yeah, and it's a tough balance.
It is.
I have some, unless there was something else anybody wanted to say about this, I have some.
No, we should move on.
I have some follow-ups from our UX IRL segment, which I named that, by the way, myself this week.
Just now.
Yeah. No. Earlier last week.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, they were gonna call that UX IRL. If you don't know what IRL means, that means in real life. Because the rest of this we're talking about is not real life. It's on the computer. If you recall my story about getting a parking ticket with an envelope on my car, and so I was able to just put the money right into it and had instructions. Well, it ended up being a little bit of an interesting journey because it said on the back, like, drop it in these, like, Finometer boxes or put it in another envelope and mail it. And I didn't want to do that. But they said down in the downtown area of our town, there's these Finometer boxes everywhere is what it implied on the back of the thing. And I was like, okay. So I drove around one day, didn't see anything that spoke to me as a Finometer box. And so Britt and I and her sister were walking down getting ice cream and tacos and stuff, and I was like, well, let's walk around and see if we can find him. Wandered all around the municipal building, and finally I was like, that's it. And it was like a water payment box, like people could put their water payment in, and I was like, okay, that's not it. And then finally,
was it a box where you pay for things with water?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that was
Sounds
part
right.
of it. Yeah, you'd pour Deer Park in it. Yeah. But then what I finally found was this guy, which
That's
maybe they
awesome.
used to have a ton of these around, but they only had one. And it was like
Finometer.
yeah, and it says Duncan Finometer, police find interest, and it's this really cool yellow.
I love the name.
Yeah, it's a very retro looking
The name
yellow.
plate. It's awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
it's sick. So cool.
The typography
I
is
thought
awesome.
it was hilarious that, and then it was like a little mail slot that I had to drop the thing into, and I was like, I'm not even sure they remember this thing exists. Like, are they gonna just like leave these fine? Like, do they actually check this thing?
Well, did it have the envelopes in it? 'Cause it looks like they like
Well, they have-
slapped
yeah,
on
they
a
have those mail-
plexiglass.
They have envelopes on the side that you can drop a fine in if you don't bring your handy, like pre-done envelope. So.
Gotcha.
So what is
maybe
what is
they
this
do check
supposed to do? Like, does it process it somehow? For
No,
you?
it's just a Dropbox. Yeah, you just drop your money in there.
It's like
That's
a
all
really
it-
fancy way of having a.
But
a
it's
Dropbox,
branded.
like-
But why is it branded?
Yeah,
The
I love
Finometer.
I know.
Duncan Finometer.
Well, I don't know if it used to do more or something. I don't know.
There's no way it did more. I mean,
It's just a box, but it was
Yeah,
very
What's the
fun.
thing on the
Just
front?
looks like a
What's the
mailbox.
round thing on the
I think
front?
it's a lock.
Yeah, that's how they get the stuff out.
Oh, okay.
I just love that it has a logo on it.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's super retro.
Yeah. So that's my follow-up UX IRL. But I found another UX IRL that I'm actually fascinated with, and maybe I'll try to find more about these kind of things in the future. But at Dunkin', they have this up on the wall, and I guess I've seen this stuff before at drive-thrus. Like, I guess I've looked at it, but I never like looked at it and saw, like, it's actually like an animated graphic of the car. It's like a visual of the cars around the Dunkin' in the drive-thru lanes, and it has a count up of how long they've been at each spot, and they start turning red as they get past whatever threshold it is that is deemed bad. So you can get freaked out about it, I guess. And then they have this really interesting, hard to understand what it exactly means in the middle, but like stats basically of the day, like the average depart, the average. Again, I don't know exactly what they mean because I think it could be much clearer and prettier. But like, I just thought it was cool. Like that there was
This
this
is cool.
That is.
installed dashboard with animated cars on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you
Like
say
live
this is
metrics.
IRL, but this is software. Somebody had to like build this and maybe not design it, but
It's just
somebody had to
the
put it together.
interaction is IRL, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
in this
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
That
I
is
was in
interesting.
real life when I saw it. That's
As opposed to when you're at a computer on software.
yeah. I'm
you're
not real
in
when
real
I'm
life.
using the computer. I become
Maybe what you
different.
meant is it's software that you found by not using the internet.
sure. No, okay. So the idea of this segment to me is like things that are much more related to the physical world than
Sure.
what we normally talk about, which is typical software type problems. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because
I like it.
I would love to work in an industry that had part of the process was like doing things that people had to like literally interact with for their job, not just like on a typical computer screen. So I don't know. I think it's fascinating stuff. I'd love
It
to
is.
interview people about how helpful this is. Because do they ever look at it? I don't know. It's way up on the wall. I'm not even sure it's like that helpful up on the wall. But
It also looks like a fire hazard
with
all those cables.
The cabling is
does.
somebody who did not take a cable management class. That's for sure.
I do like that. Like I would probably check it if I worked there, as far as seeing, like if I was manning the window, just to see where the cars are. Like I love that I didn't
visual.
notice it at first, but where it says menu, it's bad design in general, but it's very basic. It has a little car by the menu, so you see there's one there, and then it just goes around the corner. It looks like, and
I want to know how are they really tracking these cars, or is it just like, is the animation aspect of it somehow like, how do they know where the car is?
I think they have at least some level of sensors around, because they always have sensors at the menu, because that's how they know you're there. Right. Because they all have cameras or sensors. So I'm assuming it's not like perfect, but as long as they have a sensor at the beginning, they can track the rest, right? Because that's really all it is a count up timer.
I guess, but I'm thinking, unless you have sensors all along the building on all of the walls, like what if this car at the menu stops before it makes the turn? Does it show that, or does the animation just keep going until it's at the end?
No. I don't think it's that.
Okay.
It's not an accurate representation. It's just they're at the menu, then they go to the window and they get in the queue. So
yeah. If you see, the numbers aren't sequential, so I'm guessing that's like an order number. It's like 276, then 251, and 190 something.
That's that's a count. That's a count.
How long they've been waiting?
A count up,
like seconds, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not seconds, so that's why because like that car at the menu had not been there for 60. I don't know. I needed to do some more research into what exactly it meant, but
I think it's reasonable they could have been there for 60 seconds.
I guess
like
so. Yeah.
If it takes like 15 seconds before somebody says
That's
hello,
true.
And then they have to look at the menu a little longer, and then they're ordering,
and then their kid yells from the back seat, "Mommy, I want a coffee." And then
nice.
They have
How
a
many
yelling
kids yell
competition
for coffee?
Yeah. Kids love coffee. That's just their favorite.
I know they
drink.
love coffee, but I just don't know how many are like.
They're like,
hey,
Mom and Dad drink
coffee.
coffee every day. That's what I want.
Yeah, right. My kid's yelling for donuts if we're in this.
Oh, okay.
This
That my wife does that too. We drive by, she's like, donuts. I hope she hears me.
Now, next episode, you're going to be like, my wife wants me to say that I don't yell for donuts.
Oh no, she does.
Next episode.
French fries, donuts, sometimes coffee. There's a number of things. It's just how it is. Like, it's fine. I like that, because then I'm like, I have an excuse to go get French fries.
It's true.
There you go.
Okay, some Dribbble Roulette.
Dribble me, Tori. Wow.
Well, now you got to make a little intro music for it.
I know. I need jingles for every segment.
It has to be like a basketball dribbling with something in the background.
Yeah, with an animation. That would be so. We've totally got to
like
do
that. Oh, look at this! It's moving.
It is. I will. I don't really know. Oh, that's the side menu collapsing. Okay.
It's collapsing and reopening.
Got it.
And I guess nothing. I was gonna say also showing maybe the responsiveness, but it's not. Nothing's really changing except the picture.
That's responsive.
Have I said I don't like Google Meet? Have I said that before?
You did. I think maybe this episode.
Yes, it was this episode.
I don't know if we were actually recording at the time.
Yeah, no, we were. Yeah.
This is I like this. For me it's a little small, so it's hard for me to see it.
I usually zoom in a little.
There we go.
Is that better?
I think the animation, I don't know if this is about the motion or if it's about the UI itself, but I think the animation is nice. I like how the profile picture in the bottom like actually animates from one point to the other. And the little icons sort of shift over.
Yeah, well, all of that's really nice and easy to do in Figma. It's just much harder to do when you want to actually develop it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, good luck having engineers have the time
Well,
to be
it's
able
totally
to implement
possible. They're just gonna look at
that. It's
you and
about
be
time.
like, "I'm not doing that."
It's fine. Um,
I like how the logo gets
it's like a
small.
responsive logo. It looks well. It's actually maybe it's just
Depends
like
on if it's a real company too.
yeah.
I like that it goes down to just QB, like a small version of the logo.
Yeah, that's cool.
It'll be interesting if they actually use QB as part of their brand, or if that's just something the designer put in. I think it works. I think it's cool.
I find it interesting that when the sidebar collapses, that the important area where all the content is doesn't change size at all, but the image does. Like I would, to me, it seems like if I had to pick one of those things on the right there to expand so that it's, I can show more data on the screen at one time, that it would be more important for the left side where all of the details of this, whatever this is, project or something, construction project maybe, are, and it may be better to expand that out. I don't know. Obviously pictures are important, but you can also click on them maybe to view them in a light box or in a larger format. But I thought that was interesting. Overall, this looks nice. It's very dribbly.
Yeah. I have some issues with I have a feeling that you would be asked for a lot more information density in a scenario like this. Unless I'm misunderstanding what this is about, I would guess the image is actually much less important than like almost 40% of the page.
Right.
I think an expand and allow maybe a little bit more information about the location, and it's got those quality tabs and rework, and I guarantee you in like a normal scenario you'd see requests for people to want to have some sort of easier access. And maybe that's not the answer, but I guarantee you that would be the top request on this kind of page is like all I'm getting here is a little tiny bit of info about this thing. I don't have any other there's no other info other than start date and stuff.
Is this supposed to be, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like an app for iPad and not it's not a mobile site. Or it's not a website specifically. It doesn't look like.
It looks just like a normal site to me.
Okay.
Because of how small
it does have rounded
targets
edges,
are
which make it look
small.
Yeah.
I just was looking at the bottom. They have QBuild's app, and so that's why
That's true.
was assuming. But I think that would make me think differently of it too.
Yeah. iPad.
I think having a little more context for what this is for, like what it is,
Hence
would be
the
helpful
problem
because
with
at first, right, exactly. At first glance, like it looks, I was like, oh, it's like an Airbnb style thing. But then reading it more closely, it's like it looks like it's the back end or the admin page for like some sort of construction project, which I think like for the former, like the Airbnb style thing, this design works a lot better.
Yes.
For the latter, where it's more of an administrative use case, I do agree that information density is pretty spread out, and probably it's not super realistic that this would fly. I mean, I like it. I think it looks nice, and I'm all for spreading things out to improve readability and stuff. But it probably could have used a little bit more of that. And boy, that status up there, the under construction status, like it could have been just popped up in there in the upper right corner. Like it's taking up so much space right there.
Well, that's something you see a lot where like it actually like it's really big right now to have huge headers and big bold because Apple started doing that, and then everybody decided that looked cool again instead of light headers, which were big for a while. Like, so now huge headers are like a thing, but like huge headers don't make a ton of sense in enterprise. As long as the header is clear, you don't need it to be huge, because a lot of times there's other things that are more important than the title of the record. Also,
the
yeah,
page,
that
yeah.
status absolutely shouldn't be 40 pixels tall, but that's, the tabs I feel like are a little far apart, but some of that it looks like it's just they're stretched to fit the available space.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that just because
okay.
it makes it easy to read. I don't like that it's not obvious right away that they're tabs.
That's the issue.
I think the spacing is part of
things.
that, is why they aren't necessarily obvious. I agree. Like, I like the spaced out nature, but I think, to Tori's point, like, because they're so spaced out, like, you lose the unit factor. Like, they don't feel like they're part of the same thing, which then makes it hard to comprehend that, or to realize that they're tabs right away.
I think you could just have a slight background maybe on some of them, or just like a line in between. Again,
a bottom line helps a lot with this kind of thing.
It does. And they have that, yeah.
Yeah, like a line across the whole thing, because what happens with tabs a lot of time, I personally am totally okay with these tabs. But what I've seen from interviewing users and stuff is this is the kind of thing that they start stumbling over sometimes. If they're not as familiar with applications, they'll start they think that that's just like a header, and then they people go really blind to stuff on the page. Like, it's very interesting when you watch, sometimes they'll just skip over the rest of the stuff there because it doesn't feel like a clickable unit. And I don't think it needs to be gradiented and stuff to look clickable, but sometimes you just need a little bit more affordance to let people know.
I agree, and I think that's really important. I also think part of the problem is that it's sandwiched in between these really big elements, like the summary box below, the status, and the heavy header above. And then the tabs are pretty small and pretty light in color, so it's just it's struggling to keep up with the other big elements on the page. Yeah,
it's their visual hierarchy that's really the problem. It's exactly what you're saying. Yeah, the cube is very the word cube is very obviously the header.
Yeah,
but then these should be more obviously your next action. Or a high level subhead type action. So obviously you can't make them large, the text large, because you're going to run out of space with all the words. But making them more differentiated would be better. Because I personally am not a huge fan of tabs. We've all discussed that before on our lunchbox.design site, and it's just. It depends on how they're done, I think. And I think it's just not immediately obvious sometimes that that's where the rest of the content is. Unless they're really unless it's done the right way.
Well, you're inherently hiding things from the user.
Yeah.
That is inherently what tabs do, and you have to be intentional about that use.
Agreed.
So I totally agree. Let's go to the next one.
Oh, what is this? Mix kit.
It looks like I'm not trying to be mean, but it just looks like a WordPress template. Is that what it is?
Maybe. A lot of the stuff, some of these you see are, yeah.
It just looks like a basic.
Speaking of visual hierarchy, there's not much on this page. It's very flat. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that is all visually the same.
I think there's some easy things you could do to improve understanding that blue bar is nav, and I guess that's categories. Yeah.
Yeah.
The graphics are a little questionable, I would say.
Well, that illustration doesn't feel like it fits with the logo. It doesn't feel like it fits that brand. They just look like two different styles of whatever to me.
I will say it is a cutout of the logo. If you didn't see that, the shape is the same shape as the curve.
Oh, I see that. Yeah. Oh, I think maybe it's just the fills. You have the two solid colors, and then over here you have this artistic feeling. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's not bad, but it does remind me immediately of a WordPress
Yeah.
template that you could just get.
Yeah, it's sort of those that's like, I mean, I could think of a number of things to improve, with like the typography, really that incredible free sound effect. That's not the header the text I would even choose there. I feel like it shouldn't be white when you're on such a light background.
But it has a drop shadow to it.
Well, yeah, I was getting to that. Don't do drop shadows on text because it doesn't make it that much easier to read. That's the problem.
If you do them, they have to be super subtle where it doesn't look like it's a drop shadow at all.
Yeah, and then it ends up making the text look blockier and.
Just
Okay.
Just avoid them at all costs.
Because we're running a little behind, we'll just go to this guy.
Ooh.
Seems like we're going quick tonight, so.
Oh, really? I thought we were slow.
Hour and 8 minutes, but.
Oh, wow.
It's not too bad. That's better than I thought.
Well, it's less than that because of the cut stuff at the beginning.
Does anyone else see this and think like NASA?
Oh, it's absolutely NASA because of the.
That was my
it's just
first
because
thought.
of the A, though.
A.
Because it's exactly the same A.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't.
Wait,
that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's literally
Not that one. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's the.
Yeah.
I mean, technically.
And it's got 3 of the 4 letters in the same order.
Yeah.
That's part of it too, probably.
Yeah.
I like the animation. That's cool.
Yeah.
With the colors,
Animation is
circles.
I'm not really sure what the little, like, half moon under the A is supposed to be. I guess that's just like a.
I don't like that the A doesn't match the rest of the type.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a ripoff from the NASA logo.
Oh, no. Okay, wait. The reason why the A, that's supposed to be a bell. So this is supposed to be an app that helps victims of domestic violence. I read that. Yeah, so that's why it's an alarm business. Okay. So yeah, that's why they have that, which I think is cool. Now that I remember that was the case.
I was going to say I was going to ask if it had something to do with a clock or a timepiece because ASAP, and then in the beginning it has that like circle that's filling out like a hand on a clock, and then it just ends up being there. But I didn't notice the ding. The animation is kind of choppy for me.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I see the ding now.
Same.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think I just don't like that they pretty much ripped off that A.
I feel like you could have adjusted it to be like a different look. Yeah.
Why does it have to have like the rounded top? I think like maybe that makes it more like a bell, but that's what it really makes it look like NASA without and none of the other letters have that rounded like factor to them.
I mean, I like that there's roundness there. I mean, maybe they were trying to match the little the bell part, but you don't really need to because you already have the round and the P and the A and the S like that. I mean, there's all you don't. I mean,
it's not bad.
Yeah,
cool.
It's not bad.
One
last thing, registered trademark is way too big.
It is pretty big.
It's way too big. You don't need it that big. I've done a lot of registered trademarks, so you don't need it to be that big.
It just needs to be like a pixel, just a dot. That's all you need.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. Yeah, it's way too big.
And then in the lawsuit filing, you like zoom in. Really, see, it's there. It's registered.
Yeah. So,
what do you got, Tori?
I'm really excited. I've seen things like this, and this one's. If they keep building out like they say, I think the design of it is really nice. It's a really simple user experience. It is a way to if you've ever used like Alfred, that's an old Mac app that let you do like extra keyboard stuff, extra keyboard shortcuts, and extra like spotlight search type things. That's kind of what this is. I just like they have some open extension building and stuff. It looks like it's going to be a little bit more easy to do something. I don't know, like even just the ability for me to like view Jira issues in it is kind of cool. And I also thought the design is really nifty. I have like, this is it right here, and it's just, has some already pre-built in things. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. That's the only recommendation I really have this week, unfortunately. But.
And can you, for those not watching, it's called what?
Raycast. And it is very similar to what Alfred, if anybody's familiar with Alfred, but Alfred's paid, so I had it like a long time ago. But it says Raycast lets you control your tools with a few keystrokes.
That sounds awesome, though. I'll have to check it out.
So it has all the stuff that Spotlight does, where you can find apps and websites and stuff, but it adds in like custom things like creating GitHub issues and Jira tickets, which if they keep adding more extensions for it, I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what you can do.
Yeah, I would be interested in using it for like task management if and when hopefully they tie in with more of those. Yeah, that would be really neat.
Or if you could create notes from all of your favorite notes applications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
feature idea, John. Yeah.
The options are endless.
Yeah. Okay. Your stuff.
My stuff. So I have two quick ones. The first one is I first found them on Instagram as an Instagram account, but there's also a website and now a book. It's called Accidentally Wes Anderson. I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan, one of my favorite directors, and a lot of the reason is just because of the unique and beautiful aesthets of his movies and the typography. So this account, and if you go maybe, I don't know, collections or places to where you might be able to see some examples, but it just collects images from around the world of scenes that look like they're out of Wes Anderson movies. And so it's just it's really like, I get a kick out of it. I love it. They're so cool looking.
Yeah, this one in Bern, Switzerland, if this dude was like leaning out the front, so all you saw was his head out the front of it, and he had like a top hat on, yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is just I would follow them on Instagram, or I haven't bought the book, but I'm thinking about it.
Hey.
There's just some really cool looking. Oh yeah, look at that.
Pittsburgh. I know where that is. These are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Just really cool looking things, and it's neat that they're like real places in the world because they look like they literally could be in a Wes Anderson movie. So fun to look through. The other one that I had was a book by Dan Cederholm, who I think was one of the co-founders of Dribbble, called 20 Bits I Learned About Design, Business, and Community. I'm not finished it yet, but I have started it, and it's just a really quick read. You can see inside. I was going to show some of that.
It's pretty.
Really well laid out, and fun little illustrations, hand-drawn illustrations, which is a thing that other books have done. But it's well done, and some good like real world tips and tricks from how he's learned and what he's experienced in his career. So good book. You can buy an ebook or obviously a hardcover, as you can see on his website there. He sells a bunch of neat little things, but the book is, at least so far, worth it. I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
I said I didn't have anything.
What? You
Only
have
thing
something?
I'm going to plug something in that it's not technically design, and
that's
so
all right.
We
can break the rules.
So my uncle has worked for a long time to do this TV show. I know I've told y'all about it, but it's called Pro Dog TV. And if anyone wants to look it up, it's really interesting. It's a story. The first episode just came out, and it's all about working dogs. So it's very interesting if you like dogs. It's neat to hear about some of the things that these working dogs can do. So like seeing eye dogs and different police dogs and drug sniffing dogs. There's all different.
That's cool.
They eventually will have different types, but the first episode is out. It's about my uncle and his dog, and the video is really done really well. I like the logo.
Of course you
may
do.
Have done that.
Of course you do.
It's a good logo. I like it.
Oh, thanks. Anyways, so just a quick plug for that. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It just won an award somewhere.
Oh.
So for the first episode.
How long was he like working on trying to get this to become a reality, John?
Since I was in college, so it's been
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's been
Wow.
an idea of his for a really long time, and then now, once he retired from the police force in South Carolina, he has been really trying to work on this and getting it out there. So
Awesome.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's really interesting because I've always been intrigued and interested in like how dogs, like drug sniffing dogs or bomb sniffing dogs or whatever, are trained. And I mean, I'm pretty sure like they're accurate enough that that's like admissible in court. So it's like a pretty accurate thing. And I'm super interested in that and how they're trained to do that and that sort of thing.
He actually mentions really briefly, he goes over like, what the dogs think about it and stuff and how they train them and stuff. It's basically like a game to the dogs. So
really?
Anyways, yeah, check it out. Yeah, it's pretty,
Definitely
it's pretty cool. They did a good job.
Sweet.
Cool. So that's it.
That's it, I think.
That's it.
Are we done?
I'm
We're
trying
done.
to come up with a good awkward ending.
Episode 4 is in the books. Oh, sorry. I'm going to let you do this awkward ending.
Episode 4 is in the books.
Okay.
Okay, that was a good cut time.
Sweet. So what do we think about episode? I don't know.
Titles?
Titles, yeah. Can we do that? Can we remember? I made a couple notes. So one was bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that. I'm fine with it.
And then the other one I came up with was phinometer,
That's
which
okay,
I actually like a lot too.
Phinometer was that was cool.
Or the phinometer.
The
Yeah.
phinometer. Yeah, we could. I mean, either one.
Okay.
I had the thought. I wonder if there weren't more of those because people stole them.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Because they're very unique. Like, how many times are you going to see something like that?
That's
Anyways.
true.
I think it's nifty. I don't.
So are we deciding on one of these names,
Sure.
or do we
That's
still
fine
need
with
to,
me.
Which one?
Phinometer.
The phinometer.
Yeah.
The phinometer. All right.
Now I want to look up Duncan Phinometer and just see if that's actually like.
Isn't it funny that I didn't even think about this? It's called the Dunkin' Phinometer, and then I talked about Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. Wow. You really had Dunkin' on the mind.
My goodness.
Yeah, the first
Maybe that's
thing
why you
when
went to
search,
Dunkin'.
The very first thing when you search Duncan Phinometer. Oh, it's parking meter. Never mind. I guess Duncan made parking meters. But the very first thing was an eBay listing.
There's a
little
whole
placard. Different colors.
Oh, wow.
Huh. Oh, so
would be cool to have
some
one
of
of
them were
those.
attached to the parking meters. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's cool.
very cool.
Have you guys watched The Mandalorian season 2 yet?
Oh,
So
yeah.
here's the deal about The Mandalorian. It's not a good show.
You're wrong.
I don't know how you can say that.
Why would you say that?
It's an okay show. It's absolutely okay.
It's
It does get a little
good.
slow at times.
It's
I'll give
very
you that.
slow. That doesn't always bother me, but in that case it did. It's very slow. The character development is almost non-existent. They try to basically draw on your nostalgia of Star Wars, which they do pretty well. I will give them that. I think they do it the best job of the Star Wars universe of anything ever. So that's good. because all this other Star Wars stuff that's coming out is worse than The Mandalorian, in my opinion, in a lot of ways.
I don't know about that either.
Yeah, you have some questionable opinions.
No. You think that the last 3 the Star Wars movies were at all good?
They were good.
They're okay. That's what I'm saying. These are all like they are barely okay. To sometimes there's parts of them that are really cool. I'm just saying this is
your
Star
favorite
Wars.
is the
this
Phantom
is Star
Menace.
Wars we're talking about. They have this whole cool world, and then they put out all of this stuff that's just kind of like it's okay, and it's not very internally consistent with itself. It does weird things with the story, especially the movies. That's why I'm saying The Mandalorian is at least better than Rise of Skywalker. Oh, so much better. Rise of Skywalker makes no sense. They randomly, oh, look, the Emperor's alive, and he can make 50 million.
That.
Well, that's because of what happened in the second
50
part.
He can make 50 million Star Destroyers for no apparent reason. Do you know how many resources that would take to actually build those things? And I'm not saying Star Wars
just
needs
make
to
it
be
out of magic.
realistic, but my goodness,
So
just
we
make
now need to have Aaron
stories.
Goins on. It'd be perfect if we just
we
brought
should.
him into the.
Should have a special episode about that.
The only
Here's
reason
what
why I
Hey,
care
Aaron,
is
can you get
because
on a
I
Google Meet
like
right now?
the universe. I like it all, and The Mandalorian was fine. I got through it, but it could
I got through it.
It was
very slow.
I think I'm in the middle.
No,
I think I'm in the middle because
I want to say something too. Okay.
All right, you go
Only
ahead.
because I feel like you're going to be more negative about it too.
Who,
Anyways,
me? I'm
maybe.
moderate.
You're moderate. Okay.
Moderate.
All right. Well, then you can go. I'll let you go.
I'm moderate to positive. I'm on that side of the scale. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, for the amount of time each episode is, so they're short episodes, and they did 8 maybe. I think the character development was really good for that, especially not knowing what type of, audience feedback they would get for that amount of time that they put into it. I can already tell from this second season, the first episode already it's way better than the first episode of the last time. Anyways, maybe not way better, but they did a really good job of, branching out in the story and continuing his story. I love The Mandalorian, but apparently not everyone does, and that's fine.
I like parts of it. I'll go back to and I'll let John say his thing too. I like parts of it. And I didn't
Baby
say it was
Yoda.
a bad show. I know. I just wish it were better. Same thing with the movies. I want them to be great, and they're not amazing pieces of TV and film. That's my sadness.
I don't know. I think they're better than you're giving them credit for, Tori. I think that because The Mandalorian isn't a action film first or a it is sci-fi, but it's less action based and it's more story based, I think.
Yeah, but nothing happened in the story.
Well, he saved the baby.
They barely did anything. They went to a couple places. No.
And shot some people and saved the baby. Anyway, but wait, let me just say this. I agree that I'm less bullish on it than John is, but I did like it. And what made me the most excited about it was I felt like that this genre of TV shows that feel like movies that are of the quality, from a cinematography and a budget standpoint, that closer to it, maybe not budget compared to the movies, but higher budget, bigger name actors and stuff, I'm excited about that prospect versus cartoons and whatever. I think there's a lot of stories. There are definitely a lot of great stories to be told that if these shows keep coming out, maybe they're not all blockbuster winners, but there will be one eventually, I think. And this is opening the gate to that. And that's what gets me really excited about The Mandalorian as an idea. And I liked the show. I thought it was good. It was a little slow at times, but I don't think I hated it anywhere near as much as you do, Tori. Because you clearly hate it.
I will say one thing. I do wish they would just pick a director. I think it was an interesting exploration they did. If you don't know, they use, I think, 3 or 4.
Well, that's just common with TV shows.
That is common in TV.
Okay. Maybe I didn't know that.
It's surprisingly because almost any sort of like actual like traditional TV show is going to have different directors every episode, which does cause some
Did not know that.
continuity issues just because they have different priorities and things they want to tell.
There are the Doctor Who episodes, like I know Doctor Who episodes that I will love based on the director or the showrunner, and other episodes that I'm not gonna like anywhere near as much because of the showrunner. It makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
I will probably watch the next season, but I'll wait for a couple episodes in before I do.
You should.
I think we're gonna wait until the season is all available so that we can binge it like real entertainment viewers. Because who wants an entire week in between their shows like we're back in the 1990s?
I like that. Honestly, I like this. In this case, I like it because it's a show that both my wife and I enjoy the anticipate. My gosh, I can't even talk tonight.
That's another
we need to open up the episode.
Title, Anticipation of the Bureaucracy.
Can't even talk.
Anticipation.
No, I think the Duncan Phinometer is a good. That's a good title. We'll just keep that one.
Well, I don't think we can't do a show title from the post show because then there's people aren't going to run into it as much.
Maybe
that's right.
Because most people are going to fade off after 15 minutes anyway. So.
I'll give you this, John. While I hate waiting, and I hate forgetting things and feeling like I'm losing momentum in between episodes, I do agree with you that especially when you have someone to watch it with, like when your wife is also when my wife is also excited about the show, which doesn't happen as often as I wish it did, like where we're both really excited about the same show. We'll both watch the same show a lot, but we aren't always as excited. That is fun where you can kind of look forward to that night. We actually had the most recent one for us was Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus. They released it at weekly, and we loved the show. Different type of show, more of a comedy, but we loved it and we looked forward to it, and it was our thing that we would watch on Friday nights when it came out. So I totally am with you on that, and I agree. Yeah. Just in general, I get annoyed, and even at the end of Ted Lasso, at the end of the night when it's over, I was I don't want to wait.
Yeah,
it's such a different world. I get that too.
I like binging.
It is a different world. Yeah,
it is. I told you this earlier today, but I enjoy the thinking back on how when Lost was around and stuff like that, we used to have Lost parties and people would come over, a bunch of people over every week. So I do like that as kind of thinking back how that was. And I like the similar, like you said with my wife, it's that part's fun. So I don't mind that as much. And I like that I can do it whenever I want. It doesn't have to be at a specific time on a Friday night or whenever. If I miss it that night, I can watch it the next night. Yeah.
Remember TiVo?
I do.
They're still around. All right, we better wrap it up because I can tell Tori's getting.
I'm really tired.
He's fading fast. Yeah. Tori's bedtime is normally 7:30. So.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I'm just kidding. But it looks like it based on his. Although technically we just did have daylight savings time, right? Is that what
true?
We just had?
Yeah. So it feels like.
So technically 10. It's 10.
And tomorrow's the election, so that'll be.
Oh yeah.
Oh, do I have to go somewhere tomorrow? Shoot.
Did you vote yet?
No.
Oh man.
I didn't vote yet, but I will tomorrow.
I guess I will.
Early voting was actually super easy, super nice. There was 0 lines.
Now that we're coming up on the day, I'm regretting not having done it early. I don't know if Pennsylvania even does it.
We even took all 3 kids.
Wow.
Oh wow, really?
They voted too?
It was super easy.
I didn't know that was allowed.
I mean, don't tell anyone that, but
they're citizens.
Oh man. Let's not make this into a political podcast.
Okay.
No, we're not.
Next time on UX Files. I do want to talk next time if we can talk about some of the vote by mail UX. I don't have experience with it, but I've read a good bit about it, and I found out there's a podcast about it. So I'll probably share that, and maybe we can talk about that next time, because I'm pretty interested in some of that stuff.
Sounds good to me.
So vote by mail, like is this another like IRL, or are you talking about stuff
it would just
online that you can?
Yeah, I don't really know all of the detail, but it's the whole vote by mail stuff where you could, put it in a Dropbox and all, and they had there's like documents of how to fill out the ballot. I don't know, it's kind of cool. So I'll send some of that stuff over. Yeah. Cool. See you all.
See you later. Have a good night.
Later.